Mrinal, what do you suggest would be a very good mix of financial instruments and your own personal time to ensure that the child is on the right, growth trajectory in terms of the future, so that you don't feel the hit later on 10, 15 years down the line that, oh my God, sending that child to XYZ country is going to cost me so much. I wish I would have planned better.
Yeah. And why do we need to think about an XYZ country? Because the quality of education in our country is not good. That's precisely why it is. But then when you look at those other countries, 20% of the professors in the United States, key universities are mostly Indian. So absolutely right. The time is important. You've got to start thinking about it in advance. And so what I have done, and I can tell you from my experience, is I have a girl child. Last year, she was 3 years old. So I invested in something called a Sukanya Samriddhi fund. So it's a government fund. It's similar to a PPF, but providing an interest rate probably 0.5% more. It You can invest up to 1.5 lakh rupees a year. You have to invest for a period of 14 years, and after that, you can withdraw this at when the child turns around 21, or you can have a partial withdrawal after 18 in case the child is getting so the objective of this fund of the government setup was for two reasons. Number one was, in case a child is getting married, then you have a solid amount of money which the parent has at that point of time to spend, because Indian weddings traditionally can be quite expensive, specifically for a girl child in a rural area. This can become a big burden. Uh, the second point is the child's education. This is the point of time when, if somebody has to go abroad, they would need a handsome amount of money. So this is a fund which is dedicated towards girl child, right? But if you are able to invest 1.5 lakh rupees, you get a good amount of money, because the rate of interest is somewhere around 7.5 or 8%. You get a good chunk of money at the age of 21, that the child has, 21 or 22, uh, to at least a part of your burden can be taken care of. And a similar thing is a PPF also. Now, a girl child is lucky. The girl child can get a PPF as well as a Sukanya Samriddhi. So two of those funds, PPF locks you in for 15 years. So that also gives you a certain good chunk of money, 15 to 18 years. So if you are investing when the child is 3 years old, you get the money at when they're 18. I know of people who, the moment the child is born, they immediately open a PPF account and start putting in some money, because you can get almost 7.5% interest rate, and that's the best secured investment, and it is also tax free. So the money that you get 20 years henceforth, or when the child is 21, is tax free. So this is just one example of how to plan in government schemes. The second one, which one can do for child education once the child is hitting this university parameter, is to invest in a equity-linked growth fund, wherein you might be investing for a period of 5 years minimum, a certain sum of money on a yearly basis or a monthly basis. You can decide, and you could link it to equity markets. So there, it's a mutual fund, but you take some risks, but then you are also looking at high growth over a period of time. You can choose to continue to invest it over a period of 10 years, but you kind of say that I will get the money at certain points of time. Now, if you break it down, you could position it also as a fund where you get a certain chunk of money when the child is 5 years old. So if you start this immediately as the child is born, then you get a bullet when the child is 5 years old, some amount when they are 10 years old, some amount they're 15 years old, and then a big chunk of money when they're 20 years old. So different types of funds are available. Depending upon your risk appetite, you could choose whether it is moderate or you want to. But I would always suggest that you mix it up a little bit. There is no point in blocking your money in a fixed deposit for 6 years or 7 years and all that, because the interest on fixed deposit you will have to also pay taxes. It is better to select a PPF and a Sukanya Samriddhi for the long term money. And PPF, if you are able to utilize the full balance of 1.5 lakh, I think if you pay for about the various things, mathematics you can check on the net, but your money doubles over this period of time.
Wow, Mrinal, you reminded me of my finance professor in business school, where he said a good strategy is diversification, right? When you're either on the stock markets and all of that. So it just kind of, your strategy kind of reminded me of that. So that's a great tip, I think, for everyone who's listening to use, not to kind of put all your eggs in one basket, right?
No, absolutely. And sometimes you also need to plan for some assets that you want to build up. Yeah. So, for example, when you are single or you've just got married, you might be in a smaller car, and you might be thinking about that once you have a child, you will have to plan for an SUV. So you could start also investing in investing your money in a manner that you get paid X amount of money at this point of time, and then you could use it for things. Very, very interesting. I saw as early as yesterday in my bank, there was something called create a passion fund. Yeah. So you might have a passion that you're traveling or something, and you may say that every 2 years I would like to go to a nice destination anywhere in the world or something. Now that costs money. Yeah. Now option one is you get paid a lot, and so it doesn't matter 2 years later, you can definitely choose that and you use your money. The second option is that every month you transfer some of your income into that passion fund, and it goes and locks itself into a RD, a recurring deposit. The interest rate is a little bit higher than the savings bank and almost close to a FD, but what it guarantees is that it locks your money constantly. So at the end of 2 years, when you see that it's a point of time when maybe you can travel, your spouse can travel, your child can travel, you could do a nice trip. So something to plan about. Then at least you have that pool of money, and that's not a constraint. Time could be a constraint, or availability could be a constraint, but money is not the constraint.